Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Solving Workforce Challenges Through Empowered Cultures. I am Susan Ryan, the CEO for the Center of Innovation. And what I want to tell you today, we are doing something that is kind of unusual. We are having a 30-minute webinar to really give you what I call a tapas taste of what we are doing in terms of addressing the workforce challenges and really thinking about empowered cultures. Thank you for putting your name and introducing yourself in the chat box. You will see there's a Q&A box as well that I will be monitoring for questions so that we will be able to take your questions at the end. We are giving 30 minutes for this session, and so I'm going to turn it over to my colleague in just a moment. So Janet, you can advance to the next slide. And then we're going to stay on for another 30 minutes to make sure that all questions that are in the Q&A box will get answered. And that will be part of the recording that will be sent out. So even if you can't stay, we'll make sure those questions get answered. I'm delighted to be able to be on today's call and have the call facilitated by my colleague, Mary Hoffner-Thomas, an education coach with the Center for Innovation. And on the next slide, in case you're wondering a little bit about who the Center for Innovation is, that is the parent organization for the Greenhouse Project and Pioneer Network, probably the most notable brands, if you will, or programs for culture change. And then Empower Ed is our e-learning portal where we do a lot of education and training. And we're really going to feature a lot of that today. So Janet, on the next slide, we will kind of run through a bit about what we're going to cover today. We're going to look at the workforce challenges and think about what coaching is as one solution. I can remember when I joined the Greenhouse Project way back in 2008, my first week on the job, I was learning about coaching. It was such an important part of our ethos at the Greenhouse Project, and certainly has continued to inform all of our education, because we really believe if we can empower leaders to be good coaches, that is a bedrock for creating cultures where people want to work. So they will lead you through the Greenhouse Project coaching approach, what exactly that means. And then we've got some exceptional leaders. I was excited to be on the call prior to hitting record and really being able to catch up with them. And they're exceptional people who will share some of what has happened as a result of attending our classes. And last but not least, how you can take action and how you can achieve some next steps. On the next slide.
We have a poll first.
Oh, sorry. I forgot the poll. Yes, this is really important. So I want all of you to really let us know kind of what prompted you to attend this session. So take just a moment, and it's a single choice, so just one. You were curious about greenhouse training, desperate for solutions to workforce challenges, interested in how coaching might benefit your organization, you're experienced in coaching but wanted to learn more, or interested in ways of growing your team. So take a moment and choose just one. And Janet, whenever you think that it's ready to rock and roll, we'll get those results. All right. So we don't have a clear winner, but it looks like interested in how coaching might benefit your organization. I do see some desperation. I do see interested in growing the team. So I'm glad you came to the right place today. And on the next slide, this is where I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Mary. And Mary, take it away.
Thank you, Susan. Welcome, everyone. I am Mary Hoffner-Thomas, and as Susan said, I'm the education coach. So I do a lot of the teaching and definitely do a lot of the coaching classes that we have. So we're going to start it off with, I think everyone really understands that hiring and retention, workforce is such an issue. Here's some data that just helps to understand it. And this is from Gallup, and this just came out a couple of weeks ago, and that employee engagement is like at a 10-year low. So you see in the blue box there, it says what their definition of engagement is. That's really the involvement, the enthusiasm of employees in their work and in their workplace. That first bullet point, only 31% of the employees fall into that engaged category. So people are not feeling that they are part of what's happening in the workplace. And actively disengaged is now at 17%. So Gallup says both of these statistics match what was last seen 10 years ago. So what are those key trends? Well, Gallup goes ahead and actually talks about what really needs to happen. So Jenna, if you want to go to the next slide. Thank you. So it's clarity of expectations. So it's very interesting. Just 46% say that they clearly know what is expected of them at work. And that I think is a very basic kind of need to understand what that is. Again, it's down 10 points from 2020. And then feeling that someone at work really cares about them as a person. So that's currently 39% of the employees feel strongly that someone cares. And that too is a drop from 2020. And so that's another key piece. You want to make sure that you're really someone who is being cared about in the workplace. And then the third bullet point says someone encouraging their development. And only 30% strongly agree that someone at work is encouraging them with their development, which of course I think is another key piece. Gallup in some of their information said that the population under 35 are the ones that are really hit with a lot of this. So what to do about that? Why is coaching, do we say, is one solution to the workforce challenges? We say that because take a look at this next quote. Sir John Whitmore is someone who has done a lot with coaching. And I love this quote. He says, coaching is unlocking people's potential to maximize their performance. That's what people are looking for. They really want to make sure that they are learning and that, that there's just a lot of opportunity to do things. Coaching offers that. It's that ability to really be able to help someone learn those critical thinking skills and develop those problem-solving skills. So what is our definition? Our definition of coaching is a relational approach of meeting people where they are and helping them to grow in their problem-solving skills without telling them what to do. So we're all very familiar with coaches, especially with the Super Bowl, and the way that works. Our coaching is really, we're coaching people and helping them think through if a process isn't working, at their site, then what needs to happen? And you want, as the coach, you want to help them think about what that is. So there are three components of coaching. We say you need a skill set, a mindset, and the culture. So the skill set is really, as leaders, how do we speak? How are we listening? Which is a key part of really being a good coach is really listening. And then talking about self-awareness and self-management, understanding how we lead in the workplace. The mindset is all about what do we really think about ourselves, our role? What do we think about others? What do we think about the people that you are working with, the team members that you work with, their capabilities, and then really what kind of gets in the way of being that very present leader? And then the third one is culture. And that's really understanding what's your current culture? What is really happening at your organization? And then ways that you can move that forward and how you can really sustain that culture moving ahead. Of course, all of it rooted in coaching. So with our coaching, the greenhouse approach to coaching, these are the 5 steps of coaching. You see on the left side, those are the traditional ways of doing that, which is really, identifying issues, explaining the rules, telling people what to do. On the right side, this is the flow that we use. It's all about relationships. And when I read that definition, it is relational. It's creating a relationship with the team or the team members, and then clearly presenting the problem or presenting the issue, and then being able to actually gather the information. We say in coaching, gathering information is where you spend the bulk of your time. You want to ask curious questions and you really want to be listening. So it's really understanding what's going on. We often think that we know what's going on and that we were hired and put into our position because we know how to solve these problems. But I think if we would step back and truly take the time to listen and ask questions, there's probably so much more to unravel that you're not even as a leader aware of. Fourth one is engaging in problem solving. And that's really with the team or the team member that you're talking with, so that they really have that ability to be part of what's happening, part of whatever what's that solution may be. And then the fifth one is really committing to action. So all five, you just can't do one or two of them. I think all five are critical. And it's a good way of working through and being part of that coaching culture. So you got a little glimpse of our panelists. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce them in a minute. Carolyn Peters, who's the president and CEO of Silver Lining Care. Harmonie Murphy, who is the social services program coordinator for the Alaska Pioneer Homes. And then Rodel Bohulano, who is the assistant administrator at Juneau, their home in Juneau. I'm just going to, before I have them turn their cameras on, I want to show you where they are geographically. So you see Alaska, where those locations are. They actually have 6 homes. They are all assisted living. So they are there. When they attended the Leading Empowered Cultures class, they each had 2 people from each one of their homes that were there. And we'll find out a little bit more about that from Harmonie. And then for Silver Lining Care, you see that they are in southeastern Manitoba, and they have cottages. There's 2 cottages for the cottages have 2 households of 10 individuals, and then the Winkler has 2 households of 12. And so please, I welcome the panelists, and I see Carolyn's on, so excellent. So Harmonie and Rodel, if you want to go ahead and turn on your cameras, that would be great. So I just want to have, a conversation and just find out a little bit about, so what did you find that was most impactful when you attended the Leading Empowered Cultures and really got into, coaching and going through the classes? So I'm just going to start with Carolyn, and, let me know what you thought was most impactful for you.
Sure. Thanks, Mary. For me, it was actually really difficult to choose which thing was most impactful because I found so many. It was just such a great thing for our team. But I settled on the coaching process, which actually is a slide that you used just before, because for me, I used it in an actual example with the team, and we just had such a great result from one big thing we were trying to work through, and it was just really neat after the dealing with this problem that we had before us. I could look back on these 5 steps and say exactly that we had gone through each of those items, and it really helped us in determining how to identify how we were going to split the workload actually with some of our 2 key leaders. So that was really great. So the coaching process for me, I would settle on that one if I had to choose just one.
Okay, excellent. Sounds good. And it sounds like it was successful. I mean, like that in the past, you probably hadn't gone through that kind of a process for working through a problem. Was it hard for the team, or did it feel far more natural?
I think it felt more natural than I had anticipated. So when I was kind of going into the meeting, I was somewhat nervous, actually. How is this going to work? And I think often as leaders, exactly like you said before, we think we know what the way forward is. But when we stop and take that pause, as we learn too, we can hear from the team, and they feel so much more empowered. Their buy-in is so much greater because it's not been my solution. It's actually been the team's solution. And when you truly pause to listen and hear from them, they have so much more information and knowledge than you would. You know that about your team, of course, but it's just that stepping back, it's a beautiful thing to see in action.
Right. And sometimes it feels like it's so simple, yet you need to, as a leader, just think about that and to really take the time. It's not
Mhm.
often, it's not a quick process. So
That's right.
Rodel, how about you? What did you walk away with? What has really worked? And maybe a little bit about you. You had a colleague that was in the class with you too.
Correct. Yeah, for me, the most impactful is the 5 steps to coaching. I was able to apply it when we have situations. And it's amazing how your staff, yes, coming to the meeting, what is the solution, but it's amazing how you're able to guide them, for them to pick up and realize, oh yeah, how about if you do this and we do this, and of course you're like, so yeah, good, you're doing it. So it's really, and it's also amazing how you can just see them grow in front of you and say, oh yeah, so yeah, I'll be doing the same thing in my mind, but then again, for them to pick that up, it's really amazing. I'm lucky to have a colleague with me, as Marlon, to attend that seminar. And before we go into such meetings, we're able to talk, and then and see what's the best path moving forward. We have to put in personalities, but having those 5 steps really help us have a template, on how to go to the meeting and then what is the best possible outcome. It's hard for us sometimes because it takes time for you to prepare. So you have to be self-aware first. You have to have the complete mindset and skill set to go into the meeting, so you'll be prepared. So, but that's the most impactful for me and Marlon. It's just the 5 steps.
Nice. And it is nice to have that roadmap, and then to be able to, know how to ask those open, curious questions and to really gather that information. I think earlier when we had talked, you had said, oh, I spend a lot of time. And I believe that's what it really takes. Sometimes people think, oh, you only have to ask a few questions. And it's like, no, I think you
have to invest the time, because investing those time, you're helping them grow and get empowered. So that's the goal for me.
Exactly. Very nice. So Harmonie, how about you? You kind of led the effort for the Alaska Pioneer Homes to actually attend the class, and you brought a lot of people with you. So what prompted that, and then what was most impactful for you?
So my director and I kind of looked at who would benefit from this type of training. And we're looking at home administrators, assistant administrators, our nurse managers, and our care coordinators. So we did send a couple people from each of our 6 homes and got to spread out, so that everyone's kind of getting that same training, and got really good feedback on just the different coaching styles and just thinking about things differently. But for me personally, I learned to listen more. That was huge for me. I like to give people the answer. I like to find the answer, get it done, move on to the next thing. And that's not always the best approach, especially when you're fostering growth in your staff and your employees. You want them to share their ideas. And so I think the biggest thing I learned is helping to draw that out just by being curious and listening, and repeating what they're saying so that they feel validated and heard, and then helping them to come to the answer. And I found since that it's not always the answer that I would have come to, which is, a valuable addition to what the outcome is they've got things to say as well. And if I sort of listen and I'm curious and I ask those questions, then we come up with more than one good idea. So
it sounds like it's really changed your approach in terms of working with the team members. So we have a slide. You had talked about being able to send some of the team members there. Any comments on this? Is just a few. You had sent a whole list of comments that they had sent to you. So talk a little bit about what those other team members had to say. And Rodel, if you want to chime in, that would be great too.
Sure. I think I got a lot of feedback just about empowering the teams. So each person in a supervisor role or a leadership role has a team of staff, and I think all felt like they went back with some tools on how to lift those staff up and really empower them to be a part of the conversation and a part of the group, no matter what the issue is, small or large. So I heard that a lot. And then also just kind of slowing down and listening. One staff said that the role playing was really helpful. I personally agree. I know not everybody likes role playing, but I think that as we moved through the different sessions, it's sort of built upon what we learned in the last session. And ultimately, at the end, we got to share a real life issue or problem and role play that. And I thought that was really great.
So just for the folks that are listening to this webinar, it's a role play for one, and we consider it like a coaching practicum. So people literally sit there and have to, we used to say it's kind of like being in the hot seat, like, oop, I'm on now. Like I have to remember to ask those open, curious questions and do all of those kinds of things. And then you're right, that second time that we do it, there's a lot of little ones throughout the, depending upon what class you would attend. But then you bring in your own problem and it's a real life. So it's not really role playing. It's like you come to class, you have a real issue that you're struggling with, and another person in class is asking you questions to help you think through what it is, what options you might have. And it can be, just a very, very genuine kind of experience. So Rodel, I wanted to ask you, because Marlon here has said, she says, when you let them do all the thinking and don't focus on the problem. And so we talked a little bit about that, and she's your colleague.
Right. Yes. So yes, once we have those sessions, we have to give time. We have to prepare. We don't want to give them like just a few minutes, because if they open up themselves, if you're in that mode, you're actively listening to them. You want to give them time to talk and explain. You have to listen to them, basically, actively listening, and then you have to ask those curious questions. Those take time, a lot of time. So, but then again, they feel like they're being heard. And what I like about the part is Marlon agrees with me when we talk after the fact, is like, once the employer, the staff get into the solutions, it's really amazing. I mean, it's, sometimes we have the same mindset, but sometimes they come up with something different, common sense solutions that I have not come up with the first time. So,
Right.
seeing them grow in front of you, it's amazing. So that's what the takeaway is, and I really recommend it to everybody.
So Janet, if you want, yeah, thank you. It's an interesting thing, because I think Marlon said in one of her comments that it's like all of a sudden I see that they feel like they have this confidence that they can make their statement and that someone's listening and that it's making a difference. So Harmonie, where does this go from here now? Like, what tools, what moving forward, what do you think will be happening for the Pioneer homes?
Well, I think, like what was mentioned, it's an investment in our staff. It's helping change our culture. And we, have something like 440 employees across our division. So it would be great to bring in, another component of our leadership teams, maybe have our leadership CNAs take the course and just sort of continue this education and continue the momentum of empowering, our staff to be involved. And I mean, a lot of what we do is really focused on the person, the elder, obviously at the center of everything. So getting everyone to the table and getting everyone to be heard and talk and listen is important. You can't just do it with the leaders. You gotta invite everybody in. So I think moving forward, we're looking at, how can we expand on this? How can we keep moving forward with this coaching style, and also just getting more people involved? Because it doesn't help anyone if there's only a few of us that know about it. So
very true, very true, very true. Carolyn, how about you? How about you and your organization?
Yeah, so I want to build a little bit on what Harmonie just said there as well, that ultimately we want these empowered teams so that it better serves those that we're caring for. And so one of the tools that we are using, that we've implemented as a result of the coaching, the empowered coaching culture, is the decision-making tool. So that has been just fantastic to, again, put that into the power in the hands of the caregivers. And so I used to attend those meetings. I no longer attend them. They lead them on their own. and they are doing fantastic. So they're coming up with using that tool to come up with the solutions and then bringing it to the others on the team to implement them, and that has just been fantastic. We also are doing more for them in teaching them about empowered teams and helping them as well. So in fact, tomorrow I am hosting a workshop for some of our team to learn more about that. So that'll be the seventh one that we're doing with our teams. So we're really, really wonderful, and we've just seen some great results.
And team members sometimes, they feel like they have such buy-in. So it's been pretty successful. You have to think sometimes there are some challenges that occur, but
of course, yeah, there's always challenges, but I think one of the things that is so clear is that when you reach out to your team and you value them and you truly are listening for what their input is, again, I think it was Harmonie or Rodel who said that as well, they will come up with things that we hadn't even thought about, and it's a stronger team. It's a better way forward where people really are feeling valued, and hopefully that will turn some of those surveys around for the Gallup poll moving forward.
Exactly. Yeah. Very well put. Well, I just want to thank you all. I really appreciate it. I'm glad that it has worked out so well. So I think it will be good for people to, the audience members anyway, to really be able to see some of those quotes, and then we'll be giving them resources too. So I thank you all very much for taking the time. You're going to stay on for any of the questions that we have. So I appreciate that. So if you want to, Janet, go back to those slides, that'd be great. So this is just a slide, and you probably saw it earlier, but this is another beautiful quote that I think just, is a beautiful kind of thing. So what now? How can you get started? We are going to send you not only the recording of this webinar, and we will also send you a PDF of the slides. Then we're going to give you some additional resources. So you see here, we'll send you a listening assessment, because that is a key piece when you're talking about coaching. So let's see what where you rank with listening, and then a mindset quiz. That there's a quiz, there's the results, and then some ways to interpret what your results are. And then if you're interested in it and you want to take it to your organization, then have a conversation at your community, and we're going to be giving you a one-page summary of what this webinar, but in that one-page document, you will have discussion questions and pieces that you can use. So it will be it'll be a nice guide for you when you're back at your community. And of course, if you need us, just reach out to CFI and get in touch with us. And if you're interested in learning more, the class that the panelists went through was Leading Empowered Cultures. And this spring, this spring, we actually have two classes, and the first one is in person, which we haven't done since COVID. So we're hoping that we'll be able to get enough people. That will be here at the CFI office, which is like 5 minutes from BWI Airport. And the hotel is like within walking distance to the office. And so that will be 3 days. We will also offer a virtual version, and that will be 8 Thursdays in a row starting May 1 through June 19. And you see that. So in addition to that, I'm sorry, we're going to be sending you a lot of stuff when you get your follow-up email, but this flyer will be part of it. So if you're interested, you can, take a look at it. You can call us, get in touch with us. So I'm going to hand it back to Susan.
Wow, Mary, thank you so much for facilitating today's conversation. And to Carolyn, Harmonie, and Rodel, thank you so much. I actually was writing some notes and some things that you said that I thought were so powerful. And certainly you all alluded to the power of listening and really taking time to listen. Carolyn, you said something at the end that really struck me. And it's, when you value people and really take the time to build those relationships with them and to recognize that there's worth in just hearing what they have to say to come up with better decisions and ways to solve problems. I love the decision-making tool. 2 mantras we have at Greenhouse. It's all about relationships, and it's all about leadership that will build those cultures that value people. If you have questions, feel free to put them in there. The only question that I did not answer was one that asked if anybody needs a home care administrator. So if my guests on the call, if you want to respond to that, you can. Let me just go through some quick slides. If you'd like to learn more about the small house design and some ways that it is really further innovating, there is a webinar on February 19 with two exceptional leaders. Aaron Cole was the CEO at Poitras Home in New Orleans. They built 3 traditional greenhouse homes, 12 persons in each home, and 3 greenhouse trademarked homes, but through the waiver program of 14 in each home. John Ponte is the proud operator of greenhouse homes all over the state of Arkansas, over 60 small house greenhouse homes. He just did an innovation with his most recent campus in Texarkana, and he's going to unpack that for us on this webinar on February 19. On the next slide, you will see that we're actually going to New Orleans in March, and hopefully there's no snow when we go down in March. But we'll do a workshop there so you can see those greenhouse homes and really see up close and personal exactly that seeing is believing experience. And that's the 18th and 19th. You've got the QR code to learn a bit more about that. The Center for Innovations Conference, we are back to St. Louis, and I say back because it's a 20-year milestone of the Pioneer Network St. Louis Accord, where culture change really got some momentum at that momentous meeting in which they really brought different stakeholders to the table to really understand how they could propel culture change. We're going to honor the past and what happened that 20 years ago, celebrating that, identify where we are, and fuel our future. There will be lots of other incredible sessions, many on what we're talking about today. So hope to see you in St. Louis, August 11 to, and I'm going to say 14 because we're reserving the 14th for a small house summit to be able to see small house communities in the St. Louis area. And on the next slide, one of my favorite things to do is to talk to thought leaders. When they were talking about listening, listen to Elevate Elder Care podcast, because I have talked to some of the most brilliant thought leaders that really are helping to shape the future of elder care. You can find them on Apple, Spotify, Stitcher podcast apps, or under Elevate Elder Care, or you can find it on our website, aginginnovation.org or the Greenhouse Project. All right, that concludes our session today. I don't see any questions, but if you have them, feel free to put them in. But otherwise, I want to thank you for spending 30 minutes with us. And again, thank you to our guests. And Mary, thank you so much for your support and facilitation for today's webinar. Thank you, everybody. If we don't see you beforehand at our class, I look forward to seeing you in St. Louis. So take care. Have a good afternoon.